What is it with Neumann, Sennheiser, Shure? I name them all because they all have not done their homework. What in the world is wrong with these big companies? It's so easy to do. We built a forward-facing element, but why do we have this? I want as much as I can from the rear to come into the sides and the back, and it comes underneath the element, out of phase. When I turn this around, you're never going to forget it, because it's the only microphone you've ever heard do this. Not a little bit. Nothing. Not a little bit. Not. It's amazing. And yet the pattern is very omnidirectional. It's our own pattern. There is no other pattern in the world, and all of my microphones do this because we understood phasing. It is just so important. Phasing is so important. And what we wanted to do is build something that nobody else has done, and boy have we done it. And as you get around from this Omni, you can move around. This is the broadcasters love it because they can move around. All of us in ham radio, we love it. We can move around. I'm not going to hear my blowers because the minute I get here, I'm gone. Not a little bit, nothing. Hello. What's going on here? It's called science. Here's a brand new microphone. Oh, I pick on these guys because they deserve to be picked on. Here's a brand new $700 RE20. $700. First of all, you got to be right here because if you move off, it's like that. What? That's not right. And what's all this about? Remember I told you about the marketing guys? Because it's certainly still hearing me here. What is all this? It's marketing. It has not very much rejection. I don't understand that. I never could. Then I built this one. Stevie Wonder, Charlie Daniels, Carrie Underwood. The list is long. Hundreds of artists are now using this because of its quality. It's one of the most beautiful sounding microphones ever, the PR35. It's 1.5 inches in diameter. It's big. Nobody's ever done that. They've tried, but they couldn't tame it. And it was two hands, Joe and I, sit at his kitchen table and figured out how to make this work. And it works really well. And guess what else? Nothing. Not a little bit. And so we're very proud of this. And we're proud because I learned how to do this from ham radio, antennas. I'm an antenna freak. And years ago, back in 1960, I was invited by the J-Beam Company. Anybody remember the J-Beam Company? Well, they sent me an antenna, a 128 element antenna. They said, would you like to experiment with this? And I, well, hey, any ham would like to do that. So my loving parents let me put it up. And boy, did I experiment. But I had to experiment with all that phasing. I had to phase. They all had to be in phase or it didn't work. All 128 elements, 40 feet in the air. But we did it. And I learned so much from that. Again, it's ham radio. I couldn't bring you these microphones if it wasn't because of that and other projects I worked on in those days. So it's one of these wonderful things that we do. Hams are, we understand what has to be done. And guess what? We go do it. The other thing that I work on diligently is to bring you new technology. Here's one of them, and a hand mic. I hate hand microphones. I hate them. Why? Because, here again, don't tell me, well, it don't sound like that. Yes, it does. Whenever you take an element and put it in a clamshell, it sounds hollow. You can't get rid of that. And the quality would be different hand mic to hand mic as far as response. But you take a narrow response element like so many of the ham mics are and you put it in a clamshell and you get that real hollowness. I wanted to get rid of that. So I did. You're going to expect this to sound really bad. This thing sounds incredible. I got singers singing on stages with these things. I got drummers that love it for tom-toms. This microphone is used for every kind of application. I didn't build it for that. I built it for you. I built it to get rid of this hollowness, because the element out in the open. We don't have that phasing problem. That's what the hollowness is. When you put it in a clamshell, it takes your audio, hits the back wall, comes back up out of phase. Because it's hearing your voice from the front, but it also hears it from that back right here. And you can see what happens. If I just do that, it changes the sound a lot. And so we have changed that. It's hard for a lot of guys. Oh, go to hear my fifth microphone. Well, no, you don't. And so we try to make this all work for you with new technology. Again, that's what we're all trying to do here, is make all this work with technology moves. I don't think I can do that. We have a brand new microphone that came up last year. For me, this is the best work I've done for ham radio. The 781. We used some of the PR30, just rolled off a little bit of the top end. We don't need that. And this thing is amazing. It is amazing. Because you can take this into your radio, punch up a little bit of treble, and this thing sounds great. It cuts through really well. And that's the part that you want to get into your radio and look at all those menus. I know the only menu that I want to see is in a high-priced restaurant, but you have like 150 of them in some of these radios today, but that's okay. Learn to use them. And go in and look at the bandwidth, first of all. Set the bandwidth up for about 3K, not 1.9 or 2.4. Move it out to 3K, then let the microphone feed what you want. And what you do there is you take, for instance, this microphone, I like to increase the mids just a little bit of the treble and roll off just a touch of the low end, and it works great, and you can hear it. This is a wonderful sounding microphone, the PR781, and it works on just about everything. What it doesn't work on is ICOM. We have to be careful about early icons. And this is a subject that you really need to understand. In the early days, when they came over to our shores, they had the 701, and then what we call the zero model, 720, 730, 740. You know why they had a zero on the end? They had no microphone preamp, none. It was built in the microphone. That was a pretty silly idea, but Dr. Inouye did that. But then he found out he was wrong. And he brought out the 735 and the 745 that moved that preamp out of the microphone into the radio. But he was down 15 dB in gain. 751, 781, all those wonderful, wonderful early radios were terrific. But they had low gain preamps, which meant you had to use their little stupid microphone that had a preamp in the bass, and it never sounded really good. Well, when the 706 came out, they had a lot of problems with the very first one. And I was involved with Dr. Inouye. He contacted me, sent me a picture of his station because he was using on his own personal station the Heil Goldline with his icon. This is the guy that owns icon. And he wanted me to help him, and we did. We built a special element